By the end of this video, you are going to have clarity on the most important document for your MEXT scholarship. It does not matter, all the other things matter, but this document, everything revolves around this document. That is your research and study plan. If you're able to nail this document straight, the chances that you are going to get the MEXT scholarship is extremely high. Think about it like the sun, and everything revolves around the sun, because this particular research document, it helps you justify what universities you're going to choose. It helps you justify why do you have to do this research in Japan. It helps you justify the professors that you're going to choose. And let me tell you something, if you have clarity about this document, every other thing is going to be a breeze, because they are going to ask you this in your interview. They asked me this. So this is coming from experience. And if you're able to understand everything that I teach you about this particular document in this, like the process of the scholarship, trust me, you are going to get it. So grab your pens and papers and take notes, because this is one of the factors that is going to determine if you get this scholarship or if you do not get the scholarship. So let us start here with the ultimate MEXT blueprint, decoding the field of study and research plan for the scholarship. We are going to actually go in detail. So I'm going to tell you step by step how to think about each part of it, what to write at each part of it, such that you do not make any mistakes. The goal is that you do not make any mistakes. So this is the heart of your application, as I said already. This is one of the documents that it has to explain what you will study, why it matters, and why Japan is the only place for you to do this, because you can do this research in any other part of the world. So why Japan, right? So the embassy, they are looking at national interest. It looks for diplomatic value, mutual benefit to both nations, and future potential leadership. That is what the embassy is looking for in your research plan. And of course, it now goes to the professor who you're going to reach out to at some point. The professor is looking for methodological soundness, domain expertise, and laboratory fit, with laboratory fit being a very, very important thing, because when the professor is looking at your document, what they are trying to tell themselves is, will this applicant be a good fit for my lab? Like, what is this applicant bringing to my lab that is good enough, right? I am linking you, that is MEXT hopefuls, with MEXT grantees in Japan for one-on-one tutoring for the MEXT Japanese government scholarship for the 2026-2027 cycle. This one-on-one thing is extremely important, because I believe the best person that can help you get a scholarship is someone that has gotten the scholarship. So these are you're going to actually have 5 sessions that you're going to go through, and your tutors are going to work with you throughout the process. Session 1 is going to be field of study research, like what we are doing in this video. Your tutors, I'm going to make sure that I try to match you as much as possible with someone that is in your field, so the person can really help you. Session 2, you all are going to work about the university choice, like what universities should you choose, and then reaching out to professors. How does that happen? Session 3, you're going to do your primary selection application file, and this is you sort of working on all your application documents. Your tutor is going to help you do that. Session 4 is embassy exams and interview prep. Listen, you guys, you're going to have to write English and Japanese. Your tutor is going to teach you how to go through that process. Interview prep, your tutor is going to teach you how they went through their own prep process and how they did their interview, such that you can learn and get ready for it. And then the final session, which is session 5, final readiness, and then the reality of living in Japan. Do you want to be in Japan long term? Do you want to be in Japan short term? How should you think about it? Your tutor is going to teach you all of those things. What I say is, by the end of this one-on-one session, you are going to be able to move from like zero clarity on how this MEXT thing happens to about 80% clarity on everything that you need in order to ace the interview. And even moving to Japan, what do you want to do with your life moving forward? I think that this is an amazing opportunity that everyone should jump on. The link is in the description box. Sign up for it. So here you have the golden rule that you have to maintain, is that when you look at the document, we're going to go through the document itself sometime later, but the rules that you have to think about here is 20% you are talking about your past and present study, 10% you're talking about your research theme, and then 70% of it you're talking about the research plan. That is the objectives, the methodology, the timeline, and the impact. You only have 2 pages, so every word must earn its place. And this is something that I have struggled with students that I have helped in the past get the MEXT scholarship, because it actually some embassies said you could add an additional page and make your research longer. But I worked with a student from, I think it was Mauritius last year, and the embassy said no, 2 pages means 2 pages, so you have to write everything within the 2 pages. The reason why I'm telling you this is that check with your embassy. What exactly are they asking for? What exactly do they want? And then of course you stick with whatever it is that they want. So let's look at the golden thread of consistency. So you have the past, you have the present, and you have the future. So you're talking about here your undergraduate degree, for like those that are going to be doing masters, right? Undergraduate degree, master's thesis, lab experience. What are the things that you have been through? What are the things that you studied? Like, tell us about your background, right? Then the present, here you're talking about this document that you're writing right now. The logical evolution of your previous skills applied to a new specific gap in Japan. You were studying something. The operative word here is logical. That is why people who do marketing and all of a sudden want to do engineering, the idea is, what is the logical switch from there? So it has to be a logical evolution of whatever it is that you want to research. I did a short and I gave the example of someone that is researching, for example, tourism or hospitality, and then the person wants to do environmental science. Then there is the idea of sustainable tourism. Sustainable tourism is sort of a link between what you did in the past and now what you want to do in the future, because it takes a bit of the tourism and then it takes a bit of environmental like stuff related. So there has to be a logical journey in whatever it is that you are proposing. So the future, your intended career path and societal contribution. You did tourism, and then you want to do now you did hospitality. Now you're doing like from environmental science, you want to do sustainable tourism. Why? What do you want to do with that? What is the future plan, right? So the warning here, MEXT rejects random pivots. This is what I was just talking about. Jumping from a biochemistry degree to a gender studies proposal will result in immediate rejections. Your proposal must logically build upon your documented experience. And this is actually, I'm actually working with students one-on-one to help them with tutoring. So what I'm doing is I'm linking MEXT hopefuls, that is you all who want to apply for the MEXT scholarship, with those that have already gotten the scholarship for one-on-one tutoring. And there is a form. I'm going to put the form in the description box. Click on it if you're interested in joining and being a part of our program. So there is a form that you have to fill, and in that form I ask students the question, is your major, your previous major, is it connected to what you're going to be studying now? And I've had about 6-7 responses where students have said completely switching, and I'm like, completely switching? No. If you're completely switching, the chances that you're going to get the scholarship is extremely low. As I was explaining, the hospitality, tourism, and then sustainable environmental science, and then sustainable tourism, those are the type of things that, as I said, logical switching. You just as they gave the example here, you switch. If the switch is like that hard, the chances that you're going to get the scholarship is extremely low. Okay, so now you have anatomy of the official document. What does it look like? So here we are going to dissect it from step to step, transforming like your blank page into like a scholarship winning proposal. So here you have the field of study and research plan, FSRP document. Section 1, you are filling in the past and present field of study. This is the foundation of your expertise. So here you have to state the current field as well as its background and development. What have you done in the past? How did you get to this place? And of course, Section 2, the research theme and plan in Japan, the architectural structure of your future work. Logical. It has to be logical. It needs to make sense. Here, please describe the theme and plan in detail, and the plot must be written in as detailed manner as possible. That is why I was explaining before about the importance of you, first of all, sitting and thinking about what did I do in the past and what do I want to do now, and how do I link both? It is extremely important that you take some time to do it. For those of you that are going to sign up for the one-on-one tutoring, your tutor is going to help you, because your tutor is someone that has gotten the MEXT scholarship, right? So your tutor is practically going to help you figure this out because they have been through the process. So let's look at section 1, distilling your past and present. So here you don't just list degrees, you have to tell the story of your technical abilities. So a generic thing that you can say, I have a BSc in biology, right? That is like just something you're thinking about. And then the specific thing is, I took a coursework in data science. You're mixing all of those things, and then the outputs that you're getting is, my thesis introduced me to, for example, lipid metabolism. I mastered K-fold cross-validation. I conducted 50 hours of coastal radar data analysis. That is the expertise that you have from your past, right? So think about, what did you do prior? What skills did you get from it? What did you learn from it, right? So now here, where you're interested in, conclude this section with about 1 or 2 sentences. Transition explicitly stating how these specific skills qualify you to execute your research proposed in Japan. Because the idea is, yes, you have done these things in your past. Yes, you studied all of these things in your past. It taught you something. It gave you some skills. And those skills are what is now going to logically lead you to, because I have gotten these things, that is the reason why I am confident about the next thing that I am proposing to you all. That is why if you switch from, let's say, engineering to gender studies, it's like, what skills did you get from engineering that you think is going to be relevant to gender studies, right? And they're like, nah, we don't like that, right? So if you're one of those people who fall in that category of completely switching, I really need you to rethink it and rethink it very well, okay? Now let's look at section 1, breaking it down. So you have things that you should avoid. You don't avoid those things, you are going to be rejected. So education in Asia, too broad. I want to study, oh Lord. It is flu season in Japan. Y'all get ready as you get here. It is flu season. I'm doing this video at the end of March, end of March, soon to be early April. It is flu season, and you guys, I am sick. Y'all are going to get sick when you get here also. That's why I'm sneezing. My eyes are running. My nose is running. Yeah, you'll get ready for that. Realities of living in Japan, okay? All right. Someone says, I want to study Hayao Miyazaki. That is repetitive. Over research, it lacks academic approach. You need to be very specific. I want to study, for example, AI in medicine. It lacks a specific application. What you have to say, for example, is a comparative study of digital learning outcomes in rural Japan and India. Specific comparative study of digital learning outcomes, right? Then you have the locations. Or you can say, investigating the role of lipids in plant development for crop development. And oh, by the way, going back to, okay, I'll talk about this later. AI enhanced signal processing for tsunami detection using coastal radar data. Those are better options on something that you can pick as a topic. What I wanted to say earlier is that most students will feel, actually, one of the students who signed up sent his research proposal to me, and he was like, I studied something unrelated in my bachelor's, but now I want to study something that relates to Japan. And I'm like, no, you actually, the fact that you're justifying studying that particular thing in Japan does not mean that you have to study something about Japan, okay? I think that is where, and I told him like, no, you don't have to do that. So I'm telling you all now, you don't have to do that. You can practically study something in your home country, a problem. You can identify a problem in your community, and you come study that thing in your community. You come study in Japan to go help that situation. So do not feel the pressure of, oh my God, I have to study something in Japan. And I think this is something that many students make a mistake with, thinking that they must study something related to Japan, and then they sort of edit their research proposals to suit like this in rural Japan. No, actually, you do not have to. Okay, what matters is the impact of your work and justify why you have to study this in Japan. Okay, now let's go to section 2.2. Here you're finding the missing piece. This is like a puzzle that you have different parts. So you have the background, the gap, the objectives. So what is the burning problem in the field today? Briefly set the scene using facts, data, and existing literature. I worked with a student last year where she wanted to study something related to, I think it was clean energy in her hometown, and she gave this whole background information about conventions that have been made around clean energy. And I was like, yeah, I hear you, but what are the facts? What is the problem in that specific place? Like, what is the problem in that specific area that you think it is worth studying? Not just listing out past things. Those things can be important, UN conventions and whatever, those are important, but that is not a problem. What is the problem? What is the background of the problem, right? And then the gap, explicitly state what has not been solved yet, okay? And then the objectives, provide 1 to 3 highly specific, measurable, and answerable questions you will achieve in Japan. Avoid grandiose claims like solving world peace or fixing climate change. Of course, that is not possible. First of all, you are studying something, you want to do some research about something extremely specific. So when it comes to the outcomes of your research, the hopeful outcomes have to also be something very, very specific. You can contribute to bigger things, but you have to break it down in a way that we can see it. It's achievable. Feasibility is very important. How feasible is this particular thing that you say you want to research? That is actually something that those that are going to be choosing you for the scholarship have to consider, okay? Now let's look at section 2.2. Methodology. This is what you're worrying about. So you have the input of your data. What are your sources? For example, Jamstack Coastal Radar data sets, conducting 50 plus stakeholder interviews. How are you going to collect your data? What are you going to be doing? If you're doing something in your home country, probably you're going to be going back to collect some data with maybe some particular data centers, or maybe you'll be going back home to do some interviews of people. How are you going to collect the data? You have to explain that, right? And then processing. How are you going to process that data? What specific tools and frameworks are you going to use? Python, spectral, kurtosis methods, qualitative coding. Those are the methods. Like, in fact, quantitative or qualitative is going to determine what kind of way that you're going to process the data that you collect, right? And then now let's go to output. What are you going to get? How will you prove it worked? For example, simulating real-time tsunami scenarios to evaluate detection latency. This is like those science people that have no idea what to do. But the idea here is, what is the output of that particular research that you are going to do? It is very important that you're able to state that. Of course, it doesn't mean that, it doesn't mean I already have outcomes of my research when I've not even started. No. It is the idea that you are sort of being like hypothesis of what may be those outcomes, okay? The core insight here, show them exactly how you would do it. An unproven idea is just a wish. I think the main thing here is you want them to be able to visually imagine how you are going to do this research. How are you going to collect the data? I will go back home and I'm going to interview people, or I'll go back home and I'll work with the National Data Science Center for whatever. I'll collect the data from them. All right, sounds good. That's doable. All right, how are you going to process the data? I am going to use Python. I'm going to use whatever method. And then what are the expected outcomes of this? That clarity is extremely important. All right, you guys, I'm just going to take a minute here to tell you all about my database. My database has everything that you need in order to study abroad for free. Like, just look at this picture here. This is everything that is going to help you study abroad for free. And the thing is, this database is updated every day. You never miss a scholarship. You never miss a graduate assistantship. You never miss any news in the world of study abroad. What are the options that governments are taking? When I have gotten 4 fully funded scholarships, and that was thanks to me getting a database. I was using it at that time for myself. I wasn't sharing it with anyone. But after getting 4 fully funded scholarships, that is when I realized the power of having something like a database. And if you get it, I assure you, in 6 months, in 1 year, you are going to come share with me how you got your own scholarships. The link is in the description box. Sign up for it. As I said already, your tutors are going to teach you more about this, but that is the idea of how you should think about it. Now let's go to section 2.c, the expected outcomes, the impact of your work. So in academia, how does this advance the specific scientific or humanities field, right? For example, a new framework for data processing. What are the things that you are hoping your research is going to push forward? Something to contribute to your like your field of study, right? And then that is like the innermost thing that you can contribute to. A little bit, the middle ring that you can contribute to is you can contribute to society and your home country. How would this apply upon returning home? For example, strengthening disaster prevention technology in your home country. That is extremely important. I will tell you all about mine in a little bit. And then now you have the outer ring here. How does this foster close connections between Japan and the world? MEXT funds future leaders, not just isolated academics. Let me tell you all what my proposal was. I was proposing the importance of gathering data for people with disabilities, because I had gone to the a data center in my home country, and I was trying to look for information about how many people with disabilities are in this area and in this area, and I could not find it. So I proposed a research that was going to figure out the number of persons with disabilities. And my argument was that this is important. Like, how do we develop policies without even knowing how many disabled people are located, or people with disabilities are located where? And that was me. And how was I going to do that? I was going to work with local schools and local NGOs to figure out how many people are admitted, and then eventually come up with some kind of data center for persons with disabilities. And they were like, oh, that sounds really good, because at the end of the day, Japan wants to help people around the world. Persons with disabilities is one of them. And of course, they are a part of the society that is extremely not properly taken care of. So yes, having data about these people, and my future plan was I'm going to create a data center that tracks persons with disabilities all around, let's say, my country, and then other African countries, such that proper policies can be taken about persons with disabilities. And they were like, wow, that sounds very interesting, right? So you see how I linked my thing, and how I had this specific outcomes that I hoped for. I had a short-term plan and I had a long-term plan of what I wanted to do, right? Now let's talk about the 24-month roadmap. So here we are talking about the research plan. There's actually a place in the document that you have to fill your research plan. For example, month 1 to month 6, that is semester 1, right? You're going to be doing, you have to write all of this down, you guys. Intensive literature review, refining methodology, Japanese language / culture integration. And goodness me, all right. And then you have month 7 to month 12, semester 2. Here you have primary data collection. So you have execution surveys, lab experiments, model training, right? You're collecting your primary data. And then month 10 to month 14, semester 3, deep data analysis, cross validation, beginning your thesis draft, right? And then semester 4, finalizing thesis writing, preparing for academic publication, presenting at academic conferences in Japan. A core insight here is a clear phase plan demonstrates discipline. Break down your ambitious research into tangible milestones. The main idea here is they want, just as I said already, they want to see your methodology, and then they also want to see a logical plan of what do you have to be doing from this month to this month. Of course, things change. You come to Japan and then everything goes haywire. The fact that you write this out does not necessarily mean that, oh, if you don't stick to this, you are going to lose your scholarship. No. But the idea is they want you to have clarity on what you are going to be doing when, such that you have a focus when you get here. Things may change, that is true, but at least you have a plan, okay? Then now let's talk about the why Japan equation. So you have to, this is the math, okay? This is the math that you have to pay attention to. My specific research gap plus Japan's unique assets, and this can be specific databases, advanced laboratory equipment, unique social policies, specific professors' ongoing projects. Those are the things that you can use to justify Japan's unique assets, plus application to your home country. That is why I said you can study something that you're going to use to help your home country. As I told you all already, mine was data for persons with disabilities, right? How is it going to help your home country? And then you have the ultimate undeniable justification for MEXT funding. If you do not use this particular formula, you're probably not going to get the scholarship. You're probably not going to get the scholarship. All right, I love Japanese culture or anime will get you rejected. I want to go to Mount Fuji. It's going to get you rejected. I was always interested in Japanese culture. Will get you rejected. Or I'm so curious about Japanese way of living. Will get you rejected. That is not an academic proposal, okay? You need an airtight academic justification. If you do not have an academic justification, the chances that you're going to be rejected is extremely high. Okay, so let's talk about masters versus PhD, because all of you watching this are either masters applicants or your PhD applicants, and all of you are going to be called research students when you come to Japan. So you have the master's degree, you focus on mastering research methods, you have a clear, tightly scoped, and highly realistic timeline for 2 years, and then you have your emphasis on practical application and learning the academic process. Master's applicants, that is what you're focused on. PhD applicants, it requires a highly original contribution to the field because you are actually now an early career researcher, right? You need to have deep, exhaustive literature review, proving mastery of existing science. Of course, you have to check with your embassy to be sure if you can increase the number of pages for you all PhD applicants or not, because give and take, you have to work with whatever it is your embassy says. And then independent execution and clear trajectory towards significant publication. That is 3+ years. This is practically the idea of someone who is an early career researcher versus master students who are just like sort of getting their feet wet with what exactly is research. They do not really know what they are doing, but at least they are trying their best as much as possible. Instant red flags, insider secrets. So you have zero tolerance for plagiarism. Please don't plagiarize. Please, please, please. Like in this AI era, they're going to detect it like as soon as yesterday. And the premature name dropping. Do not go and start talking about you know this, you know that. What you should do rather is recent research papers published by Japanese professors in your extract field. In your exact field. It is the ultimate shortcut to understanding Japan's current academic focus. So you can spend time actually researching who are the Japanese sort of what professors have published whatever in your field that are located in Japan. That is definitely a shortcut to justifying why this professor, why this university. Because if you're able to put your research idea and then you filter for Japanese professors, see what they have been writing about, and then you can now see what universities are they connected to. It can now help you pick a university, as well as it can now help you see which professor will be a good fit for your major. That is extreme. That is definitely the ultimate shortcut. Okay, so now let's talk about from blank to a masterpiece. How do we have this? Step 1, investigate. Use Google Scholar to find what Japanese professors have published in the last 3 years. I just told you that. And you can do it on Google Scholar. Step 2, define the gap. Write the specific problem statement and core 3 objectives. Write that. Step 3, build the engine. Detail exactly how you will collect the data and analyze the data. Remember, we had a slide about that earlier on. If you missed it, go back and watch it. Step 4, distill and format. Edit ruthlessly to fit the 2-page spatial budget. Your blueprint is ready and it's time to write. I think, just as I said already, check with your embassy to be sure, like, are they allowing you to sort of maneuver your way? Can you include more pages, especially for PhD applicants? Check and follow what the embassy says. If the embassy says they are not giving you more than 2 pages, all right, then you just have to figure out how to stick with it, okay? I hope that this was helpful. If you're interested in the one-on-one tutoring, the link is in the description box. Also, you can also drop a comment and I'm going to reply you with instructions on what to do. What we are starting with, I'm going to be doing sort of an initial evaluation to see if you're qualified for MEXT, and then we'll move to the next step. After you do the payment, then I'll send you the workbook that we are using, because this is very serious business. I'll send you the workbook that we are using, connect you with the tutors, and then you all are going to start to work. I hope that this was helpful. See you all in Tokyo.